Hey everybody, it's Romania Black, and we're starting a brand new show. So I just finished Bungo Stray Dogs and Bungo Stray Dogs 1, and season 4 of Bungo Stray Dogs isn't going to come out until later in 2022. So I did a poll on Patreon to narrow down some choices to replace Bungo Stray Dogs while we're on hiatus. And then from those choices, I had a poll that was open to everybody on Patreon and YouTube, and we had over 300 votes, and y'all, this was probably the closest poll we've ever had. So this was the poll results from when the YouTube poll ended. Now, I always go through the polls at the very end. It gives you an Excel sheet. I open up the Excel sheet with the polls through Patreon, and I always look for duplicate votes because people get eager and they decide they're just going to vote multiple times. And I'm like, stop doing that. So there were multiple votes that I had to delete. But once I deleted the multiple votes, the duplicate emails, things like that, this was the top two polling results. And Seraph of the End won by 2 votes over Mob Psycho 100. Now, I had someone on YouTube ask a while back, they're like, would you do the top 2? And I was like, I don't know. But because there was only a 2 vote separation and it was so close, and because I really want to watch Mob Psycho 100, I'm going to watch Seraph of the End first on this Sunday slot because it's the one that won. And then what'll happen is that we'll watch the 24 episodes in the OVA of Seraph of the End. And then if Bungo Stray Dogs still isn't going on, if season 4 of Bungo Stray Dogs hasn't happened by that point, then I'm going to start right into Mob Psycho 100 right after that. And if it has started, then we'll just do Bungo Stray Dogs and Mob Psycho on the same day. So it'll be a twofer. It'll be great. But yeah, I really want to watch Mob Psycho, and it did win the Patreon preliminary poll before I opened it to the public. So I'm going to watch Seraph of the End first on Sundays, and then watch Mob Psycho after that. And then in the meantime, if Bungo Stray Dogs kicks up, then we'll just watch it simultaneously. Kind of like what I'm doing with Modao Zushi and the Untamed. So we'll make it work, right? But I've had this show recommended since I started this channel, like way back when I was reviewing Given and Toilet Bound Hanako-kun. I had people telling me I should watch Seraph of the End. And I was like, I know nothing about this. Okay, I'll put it on my list and I'll eventually poll it and we'll just see what happens. And I keep getting requests. So I'm like, okay, I'll include it on the Bungo Stray Dogs poll to replace it. I'll include it because I've had a lot of requests for it. And y'all came out in droves to vote for the show. So I'm really excited. It came out a while ago, I guess. It says Vampire Reign on Funimation. I'm like, are we getting into vampires? I feel like I should have watched this around Halloween. I'll be honest with y'all, I was really into vampires growing up. Like, I watched Interview with a Vampire, I read the Anne Rice books, Queen of the Damned, and then I was into the True Blood series that came out on HBO years ago. My friend from high school and we were like obsessed with it. I read the book series for that. I did read Twilight, all that fun stuff. I do like vampires. Vampire and werewolf stories I like. So, with that being said, I've not watched or read a vampire story in quite some time. So, this is pretty exciting. I have no clue what to expect out of this show, but I am excited. I have been told, though, by people on Patreon and YouTube that up until episode 4, the OP and ED have spoilers. Which is fine. I'm watching other series right now that have spoilers in the OP and ED, and I've had to skip a couple episodes before I've watched it. Fine. So I've been told that from episodes 1 through 4, I do not need to watch the OP and ED. So that's okay. I mean, there's 24 episodes in this series and at least 12 in the core. So I'll have at least 8 episodes to enjoy the ED and OP. I'm fine with that. But I also don't like being spoiled. I go into these series blind. I have no clue what I'm watching. I don't want to be spoiled. I want to be surprised, right? Because surprises are fun. So just to forewarn you, I am going to skip the OP and ED for this first couple of episodes and then watch it in full and get to enjoy it in its glory. So I'm pretty excited though, y'all. I don't know what to expect. I'm watching this through Funimation, so hopefully it won't lag. Funimation, for some reason with my internet connection, tends to lag. Crunchyroll doesn't, but Funimation does. It's weird. So if you see like a little blip in the reaction, it is because of the lag. And because I've had to stop it, refresh it, and it goes right back and picks up where it left off. But I am excited. I hope y'all enjoy this reaction. I'm going in blind. We'll see what happens, but I'm going to watch the episode. There's a link down below you can click on to see me actually reacting to the show, and then you can come back afterwards and I'll do a discussion about what all ends up happening? So I was told a list of VAs, and apparently one of the main characters, I think, is voiced by Akutagawa, his VA. So I'm like, well, how perfect. We're going from Bungo Stray Dogs with Akutagawa to a new series with his VA in it. Perfectly fine with that. So let's dive in, shall we? This episode is called The World of Blood Legacy. Of course it is. It's a vampire story. Have to have blood in title. And we are going to start that here in 3, 2, 1. Let's jam. Okay. Oh, well, interesting. This was not what I expected at all. Okay. Yeah. So the whole thing about the virus killing everybody unless you're under 13. Huh. Funny that, in these current pandemic times, it's a touchy subject. Okay. So I did not expect Akane to die already, and I didn't expect all of the other kids to die already. I'm guessing Akane's dead. I don't think that Mika is. I don't think Michaela is. Because you got the setup of the two, you got you and Michaela set up as the two that are best friends, and you're just going to kill one of the main... No. I've got a theory, and I'm going to wait till I talk a little bit more about that. This is a very interesting voice cast. I've got Wushin on Patreon sent me a list of the voice cast, and I wrote some of them down, but only 3 of the names I know so far, so I don't know the other cast members yet. But I thought that the dark-headed kid would be voiced by Akutagawa's VA, and the blonde-haired kid would be voiced by Prince from Run with the Wind and Sugawara from Haikyuu's VA, but it's opposite. Akutagawa's VA is voicing the blonde, which is crazy to me, right? Crazy talk, right? Okay. And then Michaela, or that's Mika. Mika's voiced by Akutagawa's voice actor, the blonde one. And then you, the dark-headed one that's like all tsundere, is voiced by Prince and Sugawara from IQ, which I can kind of hear Sugawara and Prince a little bit. I can't hear Akutagawa at all in Mika. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. Which I like voice actors when they have a range. Now, knowing that Farid was played by Geto's voice actor from Jujutsu Kaisen, I could so hear Geto from Jujutsu Kaisen with Farid. I could so hear his voice. Like from that first scene, I was like, oh, okay. Totally heard him. He may be dead. We don't know. I think he's dead. That's crazy. But yeah, so this virus, that animation in the opening sequence was really good. Like the animation, everything. So this virus basically killing off everybody that's not under 13. But when you gets out back into the real world, there are people older than 13. So something went down. There was something going down, and only the kids under the age of 13 survived. Like under the kids under puberty or whatever survived. But it's been 4 years. It had been 4 years since then. So whatever the virus had been is gone. And then it's been 4 years after that, and apparently it's still gone, because by the end of this whole series starts out with you and Michaela and Akane as like 8-year-old kids with these other kids in the orphanage, the Hyakuya orphanage, which it seems like the way that the guy talked at the end, it seemed like some experiment had been going down. Some experiment went wrong and people died. And then these guys were the experiments left over, the lab experiments. Interesting. So the outfit that you was wearing at the end with all the different colors and everything, it had very like Hanako-kun vibes. All I could think of was Hanako-kun. And I was like, oh, interesting. Like an officer, right? And then at the very end, they're like, oh, the prophecy stage, you be here. And Yu's just lost everything. So he's like, sure, prophecy, whatever. I'll take it at this point. But yeah, crazy. So the idea is that these vampires like came up from the underground the moment the virus kills everybody. And basically we're using all these kids as like just blood donors, like just basically using them for their blood and then feeding them and just like drinking their blood every day. And they had a lot of kids and a lot of blood, so there must be a lot of vampires. I'm going to guess. A lot of vampires, I am assuming. But yeah, we set up a lot of character development with you and Mika right off the bat, which I get the foreshadowing. This is also by Wit Studio that does Attack on Titan, which is awesome. I like that. The art style is not Attack on Titan, but that the music, the soundtrack is so epic. I love that ending soundtrack where he's running away. It's so good. But you get the idea from the start that Mika has a good heart, but he is definitely somebody that will do anything to survive. And he's like, you got to use your brains in order to survive, right? So when you is very much like, I got very, maybe it's because I'm watching Attack on Titan, but I got very Armin and Eren vibes from you and Mika. Like Mika kind of seemed like an Armin-like character where he's really smart and very analytical, and he's thinking of the best way to survive and do certain things. And you kind of has like that Eren from season 1 of Attack on Titan, that fiery, like, I'm just going to bust my way through all this. And Mika's like, oh, simple you, like one of those scenarios. That's what it seems like, which is interesting. But yeah, so we get that established with Mika's character. One, that Mika's smart and that he's willing to do anything to survive, which is going to tie into my theory later of what I think is going to happen. And then the other thing is that Mika, he establishes he's basically been going behind closed doors at night and like soliciting himself for blood to this Farid guy. And in exchange, Farid's been giving him gifts. And it's all been, which these kids at the time were 12 years old. They didn't get that it was a game. Mika thought that he was actually getting a real gun and a real map, and he was just collecting all these goods. But it was just that guy's game. He was playing with these kids and just tricking them and trapping them and then killing most of them, right? But Mika just planning this escape and everything. And they're 12-year-old kids. So of course, as an outsider and as an adult audience member, you're like, well, that's not going to work. But these are kids, so and it seems very easy that the guards let them go so easily, like they escaped right to where Farid wanted them to, and it's like, yep. But yeah, Mika, despite being very calculating, is also a very compassionate character. Like he's doing all these things, like getting Akane the stuff to make the curry and getting them all these little extra things by the services he's giving to Farid. And when he gets back, you can tell that he wants you to eat and stay healthy, and he cares about you. And Mika comes across as very self-sacrificing, right? He just has a very self-sacrificing attitude, which is interesting at this point of the story. And you is very much like gung-ho, kind of just thinking of himself in the moment. And when we meet him in the orphanage, it makes sense because he said his father killed, his father was a murderer and tried to kill him, and his mother killed himself. So Yu comes from a pretty troubled backstory, like a pretty troubled home life. And so Yu's always kind of like just looked after himself. And Mika was kind of the first person to like show him what a family could be and show him compassion and kindness and love. And so, yeah, I got the impression right off the bat that these two were extremely close and they did care for one another, which makes the scene where all of them nearly die that much more tragic. And Mika just with taking the gun and everything and just using it as a distraction to let you get away. It's awful. Like he just slaughtered all these kids. He just killed their family and slaughtered them all. And then, yeah, Mika's going to let him go. And he's like, tells you that they're a family. And I love the green eyes and black hair. And then Mika, yeah. And it just doesn't, yeah, whenever Farid is like doing, like clutching himself up, I'm like, had this like sly look on his face. I'm like, that's such a ghetto thing. But yeah. And then he just goes after him. And yeah, and Mika tried to dodge. He dodged the first blow, but he got hit with the second one and just got like impaled. And then got his arm knocked out. Oh my God. And then I love that Yu is just like, die, and just shoots him in point blank in the head. And he tries to take Mika with him, but he's too heavy. And he's bleeding out. Oh my God. It's like it went from like a 0 to 60 in like 2.5. This series just got so serious. And not afraid to kill off characters. I'm like, okay, cool. And so yeah, clearly you caring about Mika and trying to drag him away and it just not working. And then Mika telling him to go. And you saying, I finally have a family and I don't want to leave him, and them crying and everything. It's like so emotional. This is like episode 1. And then, yeah, these two other figures walk up and Mika like tells him to go, like shoves him away with his one remaining arm and is telling him to leave. And so Yu leaves. Ugh. So my theory is, because I refuse to believe, I can't believe all the other kids died. I could believe, I could believe that the littlest kids died, because what's an 8-year-old going to do in this series against vampires? But I thought Akane would live. I really did. Oh. But then, yeah, my theory is the two that came up the stairs are going to see Mika. My theory is they're going to turn Mika into a vampire. They're going to turn Mika into a vampire. They're going to not let him die. They're going to turn him into a vampire. Or Mika's really smart. Mika doesn't want to die. Mika's going to convince them to turn him into a vampire. One of the two. Something's going to happen. Or that ferret guy isn't dead and he's like, I survived. And he turns him into a vampire as punishment. Maybe that's it. Maybe Mika did want to die and Ferret's like, nope, going to turn you into a vampire and you're not going to die. That's what I'm thinking of. That's what I'm thinking is going to happen, because I don't see how Mika can just live through this injury without becoming a vampire, and I don't see them killing him off because he's like best friends with the main character. So I think he's going to become a vampire, which all the angst, right? Because then you have Yu, who's being trained to kill vampires, and his best friend becomes a vampire. All the angst. I'm ready for it. Okay. But yeah, there was no OP and ED, so I didn't have to skip it this time. But yeah, Mika saying, Yu, that's the first time you called us family. Yeah, and then, yeah, the ferret guy looks like he's dead, and all the others do, but I'm going to guess that Mika's going to live. But yeah, the voice acting from Yu, just like screaming and crying and running out the tunnel, and then it's winter there. They've been underground this whole time, and so it's winter out there, and he runs out in the snow. And for a second, I was like, this kid has like no shoes on. He's going to freeze in 30 seconds. And no, then these Hanako-kun officers just show up in this dark ass city because there's no electricity anymore, right? They show up. And I like that they're like, good, he's here. And it's this guy in red and then these two people in green, right? Just like the prophecy said, one of the test subjects from the Hyakuya laboratories that destroyed Japan appeared. I'm curious to know where you got this prophecy from, sir. Yeah, and he lifts down the head. Yeah, the hood. I'm assuming that this guy was 13 and now he's like 17. He says, little boy, we're going to use you in order to get rid of the vampires. Okay. And right now, yeah, what does Yu have to lose? Because this is everything you would want, right? The vampires just took everything away from him. So why wouldn't he want to destroy them, right? And him just like hugging that guy and knocking him down. And he's got all the blood on him, but it's not his own. And he just like hugs and knocks the guy down. And I like that the guy just like collapses slowly. He doesn't push the kid away. He just lets him like knock him down. And he looks so soft. This guy with the black hair that's like the captain, he has such a soft looking face. Very curious. And yeah, this kid's like, bring it on. All right. Okay, I'm curious who this guy is. Interesting. And if I can exterminate those vampires. And then, yeah, and the city is covered in snow. No lights or nothing. And then we cut to 4 years later. So at this point, Yu is 16. And it's been 4 years. And it just shows everything's overgrown. So I'm guessing they have like an underground base somewhere or a secret base. And this kid has got like green on. So I'm guessing maybe a red signifies an officer, like a high up officer, and green is like if you're like a greenhorn, if you're a newbie. So maybe he's been training for 4 years and then this is his first time on the job. I don't know, but I don't think Mika's dead. Nah. I think he's a vampire because all the angst. It's a vampire story. You can't have a vampire story without angst. It's a cardinal rule that vampire and werewolf stories have to involve a distinct level of angst. That's what has to happen. But yeah, so something about the laboratories has started this virus, I'm pretty sure. And one of the test subjects. So Japan was apparently destroyed by this virus, but Yu's one of the ones that survived. Okay. All right. And I think Mika's going to be a vampire because why not? And that pink-haired girl at the beginning, she's going to have some involvement in all this. Some involvement indeed. I'm curious what's going to happen with her. We didn't really see who she was. But yeah, I'm super curious, y'all. Sign me up. I'm ready to have my heart ripped out by this angst of these two former best friends that are probably going to have to fight each other and all the fun that goes with it. So I'm pretty excited that y'all recommended this because I'm on board with it already. On board. But yeah, I am curious to know your thoughts down below. Please don't spoil me. Please no spoilers. I'm going in blind. I have no clue what to expect, so please no spoilers. If you're going to do a spoiler, be like Romania. Don't read this until and then skip like 80 lines and then do your spoiler comment there. That way I know not to read it. But otherwise, I'm pretty excited. So I'm excited to hear your thoughts down below. Thank you so much for watching this reaction. I hope you enjoy the rest of the season with me. But yeah, I hope you have a wonderful week. Please stay safe, take care, and I'll talk to y'all again real soon with more Seraph of the End. Bye.